There's also a commitment to God and to live as his people. This covenant renewal that we saw in Josiah is another thing that matters, that we need to be pushing towards and getting back to. See, God has delivered us and called us into relationship with him. We are his covenant people. Not through the acts of Passover, not through a deliverance from Egypt, but the deliverance, the bondage of sin that we were under, that God has delivered us from through Jesus Christ. The perfect sacrificial lamb. The Passover lamb that is spotless, that has no wrinkle, that has no blemish. That's Jesus. And his blood that is shed on our behalf, so that we don't have to face the judgment of God, that we don't have to be under the punishment that we deserve, but that God has already laid that on Jesus. And that in the same way that in the Passover, that people trusted in the sacrifice of that lamb and were able to be delivered and to be rescued and saved. As we look to the sacrifice of Jesus and look to his blood and let his blood cover us, then God passes over the sin and the judgment and punishment that our sin deserves. And so we ought to renew that covenant and say, because we are God's people, that ought to affect how I live. That ought to change how I act in front of people. I need to reflect God's light and his love. I need to look different.